When you think of Stephen Hawking, you think of one of the most brilliant minds ever. But there was one idea that he thought wasn't just possible, but could literally end the world: time travel. And we're going to dive into exactly why he was so worried about it. So, get this: Hawking wasn't some skeptic who thought time travel was sci fi nonsense. Nope. He was pretty convinced it was theoretically possible. But, and this is a big but, he was terrified that a trip to the past could unleash something catastrophic. Okay, so what's the big deal? Why is going backward in time so risky? What could actually go wrong? Well, the short answer is pretty much everything. See, the real danger is in something called a paradox. These are scenarios that just completely break the rules of logic and, threaten the fabric of the universe itself. Let's start with the most basic rule there is. Our entire universe runs on one simple, non-negotiable principle: cause and effect. For anything to happen, something else had to make it happen first. You can't just have an effect pop into existence without a cause. And time travel? Well, it puts that whole idea at risk. To really get why, let's run through a quick thought experiment. Picture a scientist, let's call him a mad scientist just for fun, who builds a time machine. But it's a very specific one. It can only go back in time exactly 1 minute, 60 seconds. That's it. So he hops in, travels back that single minute, and sees his younger self standing right there. What does he do? He takes out a gun and shoots his past self. It's a simple act, right? But the implications could literally shatter the universe. And right here is where it all just completely falls apart. Think about it. If his past self is dead, he never grew up to get into the time machine in the first place. So who went back and fired the gun? You've got an effect, a dead scientist, but the cause for that effect has just been completely erased. It's an impossible loop. And if that one messes with your head, there's another paradox that's honestly even more disturbing. Because this one suggests that maybe, just maybe, you can't change anything at all. It's called the predestination paradox. So let's say your friend dies in a car accident. You're devastated. You get a time machine to go back and warn them. You see their car coming down the road and you start waving your arms like crazy to get them to stop. But they see you, get distracted for just a second, and that's when they crash. The very thing you did to try and save them is what caused the accident. You didn't prevent it. You were always part of it. You're stuck in a loop you can't escape. Okay, so with all these dangerous, brain-breaking paradoxes out there, Stephen Hawking wanted to find out for himself. Has anyone from the future ever actually visited us? And to do that, he set up one of the most brilliant, yet simple, experiments you could imagine. He threw a party, that's it. He got balloons, champagne, the whole deal. But the guest list was, well, it was a little exclusive. It was only for time travelers from the future. And he made sure the invitation was crystal clear. It had the exact date, the exact time, right down to the precise geographical coordinates. There was absolutely no way a time traveler could miss it. But here is the truly genius part. Hawking set everything up, sat down, and waited. The clock hit noon, and he waited. And waited. Nobody showed up. The party was totally empty. Why? Because he only printed and sent out the invitations after the party was already over. That way, the only people who could possibly know about it were people who could travel back in time. So, the experiment was a failure, right? The guests from the future were a no-show. But that result, that empty room, actually tells us a lot. It opens up some really profound and fascinating possibilities. So, why didn't anybody come? Well, the simplest answer is that time travel to the past just isn't possible. Or maybe the invitation just got lost over the centuries. A darker thought? Maybe humanity goes extinct before we ever get around to inventing it. Or maybe time machines can only go forward. It's also possible future humans are smart enough to know about the paradoxes and stay away on purpose. And then there's that sixth reason, the one that could change everything. Yeah, that sixth possibility might just be the solution to all these paradoxes. And it might even explain where all the party guests were. It's a little idea called the multiverse theory. This chart really breaks it down. In a single timeline universe, the past is set in stone. You try to change it, you create a paradox, game over. But in a multiverse, every change you make just splinters off into a new parallel timeline, a whole other universe. So our mad scientist could go back and kill his past self. It would just create a new reality, and his original timeline would be completely safe, totally untouched. And that leads to this wild thought. What if time travelers did show up to Hawking's party? What if it was an amazing success? But the second they arrived, they split off reality, creating a new timeline where the party was a hit, leaving us behind in the one where nobody came. And all of this leaves us with one final, incredible question. If changing the past is either impossible or just creates another universe, what if we could still go back? Not to interfere, not to change a thing, but just to watch, to be an invisible tourist in history. Is that the answer?